All right. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mr. Granado. I'm the coordinator for the Independent Study Program. I'm here with Mr. Huffaker and Ms. Cicada, who are our coaches here in our district. They work with teachers all over the district. And to start off the school year, they're helping launch our Independent Study Program. As you can imagine, the Independent Study Program had to be put together pretty quickly. In order to be able to staff the independent study program appropriately, our coaches, Ms. Cicada and Mr. Huffaker, were here at this launch to begin the program. They will not be our permanent teachers. We will have our permanent teachers in place within the next couple of weeks. There are a couple of hurdles that the district has to jump over in order to put those teachers in place. So they have to look at attendance around the district. They have to look at some classes that might have to be claps at certain schools. And so then they have to, go through the process with the contractual issues with the teachers before they can be put into place, which is why it's taken a little bit of time to have our permanent teachers put into place. But, we appreciate all of your patience as we're starting off this year. And we know that Ms. Cicada and Mr. Huffaker have been doing a great job, but we know that the teachers, once your kids get to know them, will love their presence as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw some questions in chat. Ms. Cicada will try to answer as many questions as you have, and then some questions that she's not able to answer. Mr. Huffaker is going to, we'll try to answer those questions. Mr. Huffaker is going to walk us through kind of what we've learned, right? So we're not giving you the knowledge of Stride based on the Stride programmers themselves. We're giving you what we understand of Stride based on what we've used and based on what the kids have experienced and based on what we've learned on how to troubleshoot. On Monday, we're going to have Stride representatives come at 9 a.m. They'll walk us through the Stride platform itself. And so any questions that we have not been able to answer ourselves, we will take those to Stride, or hopefully Stride will be able to answer those questions themselves. We're going to be going back and forth a lot using Stride and K-12. So one Stride bought out K-12. So we kind of use them both interchangeably, which is why some of you may have logged into when you're trying to log into Stride, you're logging into K-12. That might be the reason there. Okay, so I'm going to move forward, jump into my screen here. And Mr. Huffaker, Ms. Cicada, just give me a thumbs up if things can be seen okay. All right.
You can see it.
All right, so we want to just start off by welcoming you to the Independent Studies Program. We know that you're making a long-term commitment as in part of this Independent Studies Program, and we're here to support you while you're here on this in this program. Currently, we're using Stride as the curriculum. Okay, so our schools are using things that you might be familiar with, such as reading and writing workshop, Eureka Math, and so they're using that particular curriculum. We're using the curriculum that Stride provides. Okay, and one of the important things to note is that though there is a teacher that's assigned to your class, I'll talk a little bit about what their work is going to be and what your role is going to be. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that you are the learning coach. So you are the one that's responsible for logging in the student hours that they're doing for Stride. You're also the one that's there supporting the kids as they're trying to work through some of the curriculum. What our teachers will be doing during the time that they work with the kids is their work will be for a minimum of 30 to 45 minutes, 30 minutes of instruction, 45 minutes of total. And the first 15 minutes might be just connecting with kids, SEL, we call that here, where they're making connections with kids, checking in on how they're doing, sort of the social emotional part of the distance learning platform. And then the 30 minutes will focus on an area of study that maybe the teacher's noticing that might need to be addressed. So it could be a mini lesson within a math area, it could be a mini lesson within a reading area. So that's going to be what the learning coach does. Primarily throughout the day, they'll be meeting with different grade levels. So they'll have multiple grade levels. And then part of their work is to keep track of the progress of the students on what they're doing at home. Are they receiving the required number of hours? How are they doing with the progress? Are they logging in to it live with the teacher during their times? They're checking in on how the kid is doing. So a lot of the work that the teachers are going to be doing is the monitoring part, reaching out to parents, reaching out to the kids, possibly doing intervention if they need to in the afternoon. But for the most part, you as a parent will be supporting your child at home as they're working through the curriculum. We do have office hours and we do offer intervention. Those office hours right now primarily have been to support parents with answering questions and then also supporting kids on how to access the website. But those office hours will also be times where students can check in and if they have a question or if they're not sure how to do something, and we're also using that time to do that. As you can imagine, these first couple of days have been those office hours have been quite busy. And I know some of you may have been trying to get into hours and maybe you haven't had your question answered, but just to let you know that, by you reaching out through email, we'll try to answer questions through that way as well. And this week we've dedicated the last half an hour of our live class times to try to address specific student issues and walk them through the Stride part. So what you need to know with Stride, for those of you that have just registered or those of you that have just been approved for the independent study program, is that our district sends the information to Stride. And so the process for that is that Stride will process the information and they send out registration IDs within 2 to 3 days. So they don't do it immediately. It's not like it's a Friday, the district has sent the information into Stride, you should be getting an email immediately. What happens is if it's a Friday, then the district may will send out the information to Stride. Stride receives the information. They may take a day or two to process all the information that they're receiving, and then they'll send out Stride registration IDs within 2 to 3 days. Within those 2 to 3 days, and if you have not received any information from Stride within 2 to 3 days after you've been approved for registration, please get a hold of us so we can keep track of maybe lost emails or any information that you may not have received.
Mr. Granado, quick question in the chat. How do we change our address? So you're talking about the address for materials to be delivered, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, so that's going to be something that you'll have to email myself or email the secretary. Her name is Goretti Ortiz, and she is the one you may have contacted her. She may have had contact with some of you already, but she will be taking over the duties of supporting our independent study program from Ms. Dominguez. And so she will contact Stride so that they can have those materials rerouted. So once you've received your registration ID, then you're free to create your own account first, and then create your student's username and password. So you'll create a username and password, and then you'll create all your children's username and passwords. And we recommend that you make it easy enough so that the kids will remember their username and passwords so that they're not having to remember that. We do not use Google Classroom. We do not use the students' emails and passwords as logins. So you might create something that you think is easy for them to remember. We will not have access to those passwords and usernames unless you give them to us. So after you've registered, then the materials will come within about a week. And they'll come in boxes and they'll contain the material books. They'll have some of the worksheets, the workbooks that kids are working on. So for example, kindergarten, first grade, and even second grade, most of the work is done in workbooks. So you might find that first week of school, if you're already trying to do some of the work of Stride, you're going to find that you're not going to have those workbooks, and it's going to ask you to print out all of these materials. Don't worry about printing them out. You know, you can try other ways to do them. You can have, if it's asking for kids to color, they can color something else. If it's asking kids to count numbers, you can do a different activity with them. And it's going to be you who logs in the hours of the kids' tasks and what they're doing. So this is also very important. So the tech part, all students need to have the iPads. And I did not add this to it, but I will, I'll throw this in here as well, are hotspots. So if you do not have access to internet with the iPads, or you have Wi-Fi that is very glitchy, or it's always going off, then I would suggest going to your school, your home school, and requesting a hotspot from them. So where your homeschool normally you would have picked up your iPads, or where you receive your iPads, you can also go and request a hotspot from there. Okay. If they tell you we don't have a hotspot, then another route would be to go through our technology department. And at that point, we would help redirect you towards them. But your first place you should go if you don't have an iPad, or if you need a hotspot, is to your homeschool site. So again, no apps are necessary, and there is no Google Classroom. Everything is done on a browser like Safari or Chrome. So as long as you have, or even Firefox, so as long as you have access to Safari, Firefox, or Chrome, then you should be able to access the curriculum onto Stride. What we do notice is that there are some links that don't work on iPads. If you have a laptop, you can try those links on the laptops. If not, then that might be something that you let your teacher know, or that you're trying to access these links and they're not working. And so we'll know which ones are and are not. So for those of you that are waiting for your materials, again, so until you receive your materials, you might skip lessons or make do with other resources. So for example, as I said earlier, the K2 almost uses all the workbook initially. So if you're looking at the K2 work on Stride, then rather than print those out, you might try different things. So if it's saying trace the letters of the alphabet, you can say, you know what, rather than try to print out these 26 letters of tracing the alphabet, let's try tracing it with my finger. Let me write the alphabet on a piece of paper, and you can trace it on here. So that way you don't have to use everything that's in those worksheets initially. In 3rd through 5th grade, you might have lessons that require some books to be read to you. You can skip those lessons for now and maybe go back to them once you receive those. You could, if some of those books need to be skipped, you might. And then you can always go back and work on those assignments once you've received those materials. 6th to 8th grade classes, you might notice that your classes will not populate. That's an issue that we've had with middle school kids, which is none of their classes are appearing. So we have a workaway around that. One of the things that we're asking middle school kids to do is to check in during these live sessions with Mr. Huffaker and Ms. Cicada. One of the workarounds is that Mr. Huffaker and Ms. Cicada have been logging into your student accounts. And once they've done that, the coursework has appeared. And then the students' coursework has appeared after that. So please, especially for 6th through 8th grade, check in with Mr. Huffaker and Ms. Cicada to have them log into your child's account. They'll need to know their username and their password. So once they do that, then they can work, then your child will be able to work from theirs.
If I can interrupt for just a second, you can email us and we can do that for you at any time. Just keep in mind that sometimes I need to do that on a daily basis. which is super annoying. But because some kids will be able to access it, the day that I do it, then they'll try to log in the morning and nothing will show up. But as soon as I log into their account, magically it all appears. We don't understand why. The engineers at Stride K-12 are baffled as to why that works. So just to let you know, I'm in contact with our tech department and we're trying to get all the information that we need. I think it might be a filter problem because we have a security filter on all of our devices. But that's going to take some time to work around those things because we need lots of information. So, but right now, at least we know that we can get them access. We just need to know that they don't have access. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huffaker. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that all parents understand too is that the school districts, we've been given flexibility to have an independent study program by the state. And the state has given very specific parameters on how we can offer these programs. So one of the questions that has come up is, why aren't we doing what we did last year when we had a teacher assigned and the teacher was on Zoom for 4 hours or for 5 hours, whatever it might have been. Well, last year, that's what the state allowed for the flexibility for distance learning. This year, what the state is allowing for the flexibility of having this particular distance learning is that we have a program such as Stride that's set up that, and then with agreement with our Teachers Association, we have, they have to have some type of live interaction or instruction for kids. And so live interaction or instruction could be, was defined by our district as those 30 minutes. One of the things that our teachers are doing is that our school district must keep track of attendance. They must keep track that the kids are completing the online work. And they must know, and as parents too, you would want to know that the work that the kids are doing at home is on par with what the instruction that the kids are receiving at school. And so it's really important that the kids are attending those live Zoom sessions so that they can receive that interaction. And if they can't attend for whatever reason, that they notify their teachers. And if it's a problem being able to attend those live sessions for whatever specific reason you have, you'll have to contact me and notify me, and we can talk about different parameters there. But that these are the requirements that the state has in terms of participating in the independent study program.
Mr. Granado, can I just quickly just talk for 1 second about the live sessions and just what we do? Sounds good.
Absolutely.
So one of the benefits, one of the things we're doing with our live session is we have a designated time for our social emotional learning. And I'm sure you've all been kind of part of that. And so I encourage you to please, attend that. There are activities that will support your students while they are on Zoom, how to take a brain break, how to energize. They're really good for the learning coaches as well. And it's also a really nice time for the students to connect with each other. It's like we have that small window for them to chat and to socialize and ask questions. And I think Mr. Huffaker and I and Mr. Granado, when he was in the beginning, you develop that bond. And I think, it's just really nice when they come in and they ask how everybody's doing, and they're able to just participate in like a game or an activity that may seem like a game to them, but it's really giving them a chance to connect, communicate, breathe, pause, just have fun. So they're a lot of fun. So we're grateful that you're able to attend, and we just encourage you to keep that going.
Yes, thank you. And we're so fortunate to have Ms. Ikeda and Mr. Huffaker just starting off the year, getting those kids connected and trying to troubleshoot with the tech issues there. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Huffaker so that he can kind of walk through some of the things that you as parents might be looking for, specifically how to log in hours. And then secondly, some of the tabs that you might be seeing. So I'm going to stop sharing.
I'm not sure how many of you are logging in using a laptop. I'm assuming that many of you are using a phone to log into your Learning Coach site. So I'm going to show the Learning Coach site in terms of what it looks like on an iOS device, just because I think that that's probably closest to what a lot of you may be using. If you're using a laptop, it should be fine. It should be pretty similar. So the Learning Coach site looks a little bit different than the kids site does. Let me go to something that looks a little bit more like what you might see. And right now I'm looking at a K5, but I feel like the parent site on middle school looks fairly similar to this in terms of how you log attendance. But what you should see when you log in, and you can kind of confirm this for me, is that you should see a list of their courses. You should see some of the assignments that are due today and sort of how are they being done and what that looks like. Okay, so you can see a schedule here also. On this has kindergarten. This is a demo account, so I don't know exactly what's going to be on here. But when you're looking at my schedule, this is really more intended for our Class Connect sessions. We're not using Class Connect with Stride, so you may never see anything here. That doesn't mean that your student doesn't have anything to do. This just means, the meeting. So if we can put our Zoom information here, then maybe we'll do that. I don't know if that's a possibility, but that's what would be listed here. That's what events means, okay? So don't stress out if this My Schedule section is empty or blank. That's not something that I would be concerned about. For attendance, it opens up another window when you click on this, and then I'm assuming that you would see a drop-down menu at the top with all your students' courses. Right now, for example, we've got Spotlight on Music, and there's lots of things going on here. Let me see if I can find something that's a little bit more like what you will see. Here's 4th grade. Okay, so here's a 4th grade student, and you can see that the 4th grader has a has a science course, an art course, and a physical education course. If I need to log attendance for today, then all I have to do, and you can see that the date is populated in the upper left-hand corner right underneath 4th grade students' attendance. I have a calendar that's available to me if I need to go back, and I can go to another date. But if I want to log attendance for science class, all I have to do is click in the box. It'll automatically populate with the typical recommended time that it would take to complete that lesson. So if your student has been working on science and it's been about an hour, go ahead and log the 60 minutes, okay? Even if it was 55 minutes or even if it was 50 minutes, go ahead and log the 60 minutes, because it will eventually average out to be what it should be anyway. And you can just go through those and you can tap in each one, fill those out, and then hit save, and attendance is done for that day. If you need to go back, you can always, or if you need to go ahead in this case, you should be able to go back. You can also do attendance for this day as well. So just click in the box, and it will give you the amount of time that it's supposed to take. Feel free, and if you need to change that amount of time, you can definitely do that. Like if I wanted to add, now this actually took us 60 minutes, I can go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so that's how attendance is being taken. The other way that sometimes attendance is taken is as your student completes an activity in their online school, it'll come up at the very end, like after a quiz, that's the very end of that lesson. It'll say, hey, do you want to log attendance? And then it'll have the Learning Coach's username and then a field for the password. If you put in your password, you can log the time right there on the student's iPad, especially if you're working right with that student. So I feel like for our younger students, that's what you may, if you're sitting right there while they're doing the work, that may be a good way and an easy way for you to log attendance as things are being completed. It's a little bit easier than going back and doing it at the end. Also wanted to tell you there's an auto enter. You can fill in all spaces, with, I don't know, with, if I do 60 here, I mean, you can kind of play around with it and see what it does. If I auto enter all spaces, oh, it says nothing. I don't know. My hands are funky, but just go ahead and enter your information there, and then you're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to restore.
Mr. Habiger, can we pause here? I think we have a hand up and then a question in the chat. So the chat question I'll read out loud, and I know Mr. Granado answered it just in case everyone else has it. Can we do it weekly or bi-weekly, or is it necessary to do it every day? We ask that you complete it daily. And then I do see a hand up. Marisol, you want to unmute and ask your question, please?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
So just real quick, I noticed you mentioned the auto enter. That's only, from what I understand, if it's no attendance for the day. So
okay.
If they're not attending school, then because it'll only allow zeros. Just
it only allows zeros.
Yeah.
I had never tried that before. I probably should have tried that before I got on the line with
Yeah,
all of you.
that's a little,
So,
I tried it already, like, oh, wait, that's not what I want.
yeah.
And I guess it goes back in line with the last question. Do I have to do it all in one time? If I hit save, is that all I can do for that day, or can I go back in and adjust it?
Well, I do know that we have, like, if you notice at the top, it says missing days. So if you have
Mhm.
days in there that you haven't taken attendance, they're going to be listed here. And then you can kind of cycle through these and you'll be able to take attendance. Right now, we've got, you know, what, 32 days of missing attendance on this
Oh,
demo
God.
account.
Okay.
So you can go through those missing days and log attendance for the student. I think, you know, generally it's easier if you do it daily. It takes just a few minutes, you know, like a minute or
Yeah.
so, as you notice, to log attendance for the day. So, you know, as you guys finish school for the day, that would be what I would do, is just go through and make sure you handle your attendance, and then you're done. Everybody's good.
Beautiful.
And you won't need
Thank
to worry about it.
you. Thanks
Thank you.
for everything. I appreciate
And I
it.
think,
Yeah.
though, thank you for that. Was a good question. And I think it also answers a question in the chat. We're getting started today. Should we backlog or start fresh Monday? So we just saw that part right now about going back and adding that. We're doing some work in the evening. So the assignment comes up with a date completed as the next day. Would that cause an issue?
You should be able
So-
to go back. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know yet. Those are some of the things that we're kind of figuring out as we go along. The importance, though, of logging in the dates daily is that part of the agreement with that we have with you as parents is that your children are able to kind of keep up with the program and they're keeping up with the curriculum. And if they find that they're struggling, they're not keeping up the curriculum and they're not logging in their hours every day, then that might trigger a review of whether the independent study program is the right program for that child. So it's important to see that you're logging in every day, that that they're getting some support as well as home. So that attendance is just one aspect that the teacher is going to be looking at when sort of evaluating how the student is working independently.
Okay, I also did want to show the parents a little bit about the student platform. Right now I'm looking at a K-5 platform, so my middle school students, middle school parents, I'm sorry, I don't have that one up, and I don't have a demo account for our middle school. So the only way I would be able to show you anything on that one would be if I used an actual student account, which I'm not really comfortable doing. So until I get a demo account, you know, it'll be it's going to look very different from this, but I think in general the overall structure of the site is similar. So each for both of those sites, you'll have courses in middle school, and in our secondary it's called classes, and then you've got a plan. Sometimes it's called schedule, right? And then you've got resources. All of those things are available, and then there's some like announcements or messages. Now, resources in the in the 6-8 site is a little bit harder to find because those resources are site specific or course specific. So you have to kind of dig in a little bit. If you poke around, if you click on a course and then you go to content, and then on the left-hand side, you'll see a menu. Resources is listed there for that particular course. For the K-5, however, the place that I would immediately go would be to plan. And the reason why I would go to plan is this outlines your day. It tells you exactly what it is that you need to do. Each one of these bars is tappable or clickable, depending on what kind of device you're using. And then it will send you through all of the pieces and parts that you need to do in order to be able to get through those assignments. Okay. When we talked about K-12, about some assignments not being there or not being finished, they have told us that the system is set up so that if you don't finish, like for example, we didn't finish the handwriting lesson for today, 4.2, that 4.2 will show up tomorrow as well. So they've assured us that that is the default setting. I haven't yet tested that out, so I'm hoping that what they're telling me is accurate. If it's not accurate and it looks like something different is happening, please let us know so that we can try to figure that out. But that's how this is sort of your day in a nutshell. Okay, you can also go to courses and you can go into each individual course or see how you're doing in each individual course to see your progress. So these green bars and all of these sort of show you overall like how things are going. And the one thing that I do like about this is that it kind of tells you like, where are you at in terms of the time of year that we're in and how much is done. So you can see that in social studies 1 summit, the student is on pace, which means they're able to keep up with the curriculum, they're passing their regular tests and quizzes, and they're mastering the content. And so everything looks good, and that's probably what we want to see. But you also see that some of these courses say keep going, 1 not mastered, 14 not mastered, and that just means that you know, those are things that the teachers will be looking at to make sure that they're offering some support. But you as a learning coach might want to spend a little extra time with the student during their math session to make sure that they're understanding what they're doing, or that they have specific questions that they can ask the teacher when they're meeting with the teacher during their live sessions. And this is also an opportunity for you to email the teacher and say, hey, you know, like, I really want to help my student with this particular math thing, but I'm struggling, you know, trying to find out ways to do that. Then you can reach out to us and we can try to offer you some ideas for how to help your student.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Mr. Figure, I think you addressed probably the last 3 questions in the chat. I think which maybe we'll reiterate that. So if we don't complete some assignments for the day, the following day it disappears from the plan. How will we know which lessons to complete if we did not get to it the day before? So I want to just review that piece again for me, please.
They are disappearing on you. Is that the case?
That's what we
Yes,
asked for the
they are.
students.
I've
Okay.
twice, like for example, the day before, Elise
Mhm.
did 2 assignments. So the following day I was gonna get to it and they completely disappeared from it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask our rep. She told me that the push was, did she say the push was default? I forget exactly what she said. So I'm gonna push assignments. And Elise is in kindergarten or 1st grade?
No,
Kindergarten.
Elise, yeah, I have a T-Care, but Elise is my 1st grader.
1st grade, that's right. Okay,
Can I say something real quick about that?
please.
I noticed that, and this goes back to what you were showing me today, Mr. Huffaker, about the schedule. If we're looking at on the schedule view, it will disappear. But if you go on the top leisure where it says contents and you click on there, it'll show you everything. So there you'll see where you left off and you can go from there.
Correct. So
And this is
that's in
from the 7th grade view. I don't,
Yes.
sorry, I don't know
Yeah.
from the.
Yeah, so middle school, you
Right.
guys have access to the entire course's work at a time. So you can go into one course and you can go to content and it will show you everything that's due in that particular course for the entire, these are on a semester system. So from now until January, you'll see the entire semester's worth of work and you can move backward and forward in that menu. And click on anything and do, you know, and do that. So if something disappears from the schedule or the plan, then you can do that. If you miss something in the K5, I believe you can come here to the course list and then all of the units work is available to you here. So, and it'll show you whether or not it's done. There should be I thought I saw an overdue menu, but maybe it's not showing up. But you can always come back and you can see the different lessons and stuff that may have been missed the previous day, and you can access those things here. But you're right, it may not show up in the daily plan because that daily plan is intended to show you what should be done that day based on the calendar and the schedule that Stride has, or the K-12 has set up, so that you can complete this course by January 20 something.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And I think the last question that comes up is, so if parents or students are completing things at night, can they screenshot and let teachers know to amend things?
So if they're completing them at night and you're worried about it
Overdue, right?
it being overdue, I think that as you complete things, the stars in the K5 will show up here, and I don't think you need to worry about sending them a screenshot of stuff. But we are going to work with our teachers, and if it turns out that we're looking at a lot of stuff that teachers are not seeing, then we'll find a workflow for that and help them know where to go to find what's been completed and things like that. So for right now, let's just hold off on that, and you guys can complete the work in one of those 2 ways, either daily in the My Plan or go to courses, and then you can click on each of the lessons this way, and you should be able to find to find out what you need to get done. I also do want to show you that on 1.4, there's this count by 2s through 50 quiz, and it was a 75%, but there's this option to retake. K5, you have an option to retake a quiz 3 times before it won't let you take the quiz anymore. So you have 3 options to do that. So that retake will show up until 3 times. So they can repeat it for a better score.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. I'm glad you said that, because that was something we wanted to clarify, because that retake for the 3 opportunities is up to grade 5. When it gets to middle, that was just that clarification piece where it's a 1. Just another quick question that came in there. So we're talking K5 with that specific instance, and Mr. Hubbard did just wanted the clarification, is that, you know, still apply to the middle school set in terms of the overdue, like it'll just roll over type thing?
Yeah, so the assignments that have been missed in the middle school section, those are going to go to your overdue category. For right now, what I'm telling all of my students is don't stress out too much about the overdue stuff. You know, as you find time, like, you know, maybe a lesson will only take a half hour instead of an hour. If you move quickly through that, then go back to one of those older lessons and you can complete those. If you'd like to work through the overdue stuff, that's fine, but try to keep up with the recent stuff before, you know, hitting the overdue stuff. The exception would probably be math or science, because sometimes they build on one another. So don't stress too much about the overdue assignments. Go ahead and work through those as you can. And then I'm going to see if we can adjust those dates so that they don't list as overdue. But I don't want anybody to freak out because there's an overdue assignment or it's late. Nobody's going to get dinged and the grades are not going to drop because things are late. We all know that we got a late start.
And I do want to say, yeah, thank you, Adrienne Via's mom. Absolutely. The orientation course does really give you some important pieces. It just kind of brings that level down a little bit, where it does tell you a little bit about missed assignments and just accessing the idea of a retake. It'll go through that. So if you haven't looked at the orientation, it's worth it. Do that. Just that might answer some more questions, and you'll see it in print, so it's a little bit easier. And then going back to the question about, does attendance count if entered before midnight? Does attendance count if entered before midnight?
Well, so
you know, after midnight. I mean, maybe.
I think in terms of attendance, you know, teachers will be checking attendance for the previous day the following morning. I don't think anybody is going to be, you know, like logging attendance, you know, that evening. So regularly entering your attendance is, I think, the most important thing, not waiting for a week to enter attendance. You know, it gets backed up and people forget stuff, and, you know, that's difficult. So trying to enter attendance as regularly as possible is really the most important thing, so that everybody is aware that you know, the program is working. So if you enter attendance at 11 o'clock at night and that's when your student finishes, I'm pretty sure that, you know, and Mr. Granado, if I'm, you know, overstepping my bounds, let me know. I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, no, Mr. Hoffer, I think the issue is we can see the last time students have logged in and when the learning coaches have last logged in. So if it says something like it's been 1 day, or it'll say 0 days if it was done recently, or 1 day if it was done recently. If we're starting to see where it's been, you know, 2-3 days that students have not logged in, I think that's where the bigger concern is going to draw the teachers and the program's eyes for that. So I wouldn't concern yourself too much if you know, you were not able to do the hours that day and you had to wait the next day. But the teachers are always looking to see how many days has it been since students have logged in. And so right now, in particular, what we're looking at are all the NAs, which are parents who have not logged in, learning coaches who have not logged in yet, and students who have not logged in yet. And those are the ones that we're trying to address. And if there's an issue with being able to log in, it's so important that you are coming to our office hours and trying to ask questions, or you are emailing us to try to problem solve for you. Because if the program is not working, then we may have to reconsider whether this is the right program for you.
And just also, I know we addressed some of the links. Since the music lesson isn't accessible, will the classes for the week be waived, or will the student need to catch up? We did address Stride. We knew that the music studio link was not working on iPads. We were curious, wanted to try it on a laptop or a desktop, and I don't know if we got a full answer on that yet, but we did put that request in for them to check on that.
We wanted to try to keep it as simple today as possible because we didn't want to overwhelm you with all the information that, that you might receive when you're first logging into a program for the first time. So I wanted to just kind of focus on what we were kind of talking about today. Number one, how to log in your parent hours. Number two, just sort of an overview of the program that we gave at the beginning and what you might look like and when you're trying to complete student assignments. If you had any questions regarding those, we'll be happy to answer them. If there are things that are outside of it, then we'll ask that you either wait until we're done here or you visit our office hours again on Monday. Okay, so I see Ms. Jimenez, did you have another question?
Hi, I do, but I'm not sure I should ask it now after you said that. It's about the learning coach orientation and then the learning coach view of the lesson plans. When I was in the Stride meeting with the Stride representative, they said there was going to be a view where learning coaches could go in and kind of get an idea of what the lesson plan for the next day was going to be. So we get a better idea of what our kids are learning and how we can help them. So one is that, where do I see that? Because I haven't been able to see that. When I click on things, it tells me you will go into the student view and that will start counting as time for them. And whatever you click on will be, it seems like I would be answering for him. So I don't want to do that. But so I guess the question is, where do I see the lesson plans? And then two, they mentioned an orientation for parents, for the learning coaches. Aside from the ones that kids were doing, there was going to be an orientation for the learning coaches, and I also don't see that.
Are those things that you guys can answer, or are those great questions to ask Stride for Monday?
Stride Monday.
Okay,
Agreed.
Thank you. So we'll kind of be done. We'll just sort of linger around here for the next 13 minutes or so. So if you don't have any questions, you're free to go. Well, you're always free to go. But if you have any other specific questions, we'll go ahead and answer them as they come up, and then we'll be here until 3 o'clock trying to answer those questions for you. Okay, you can drop them in chat or you can unmute yourself.
Hi, one last thing. So the Stride Monday, is that another meeting for us, or is that a meeting for you guys? Just so
That'll be a
know.
general meeting with the Stride representatives. So we hope to do another overview of the entire Stride program. What we did is, we know that when you first receive information about something that you're unfamiliar with, it can be overwhelming. Like, they're throwing all this information at you, you've never tried it before, and you're trying to absorb everything. So what we asked Stride to do was to do like a second round, like, okay, now that some of us had a chance to kind of play with it or try some things or see what works, that maybe now the second presentation might register some things that we maybe didn't catch the first time. And also it would be an orientation too for the parents who have never used it before either. So so it'll be sort of like an overview again of Stride itself. Like reading a good book, you read a good book a
Yeah,
second
right?
time and you get more out of it. You're like, oh, I didn't notice that the first time.
Yeah, or I read things that aren't really there. So maybe there wasn't a learning coach orientation, and I want more, give me more. Okay, thanks,
Right.
guys. I appreciate
You're
your help.
welcome. Sure.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
También quiero decir que lo siento que estaba todo en inglés. Si hay algunos de ustedes que necesita ayuda en español, por supuesto, si quieres venir durante nuestras horas de oficina, podemos ayudar a ustedes a manejar el website de Stripe. Yo y también la señora Sequeira, hablamos en español y podemos ayudar en lo que necesitan.
I see the chat's pretty quiet, so it's a small enough group. If you have any questions, just feel free to unmute. And while you have us here, we've got time. That way
I
we
do want
kind
to
of
say, Ms. Akeda, if any of you are having specific issues, we can also put you in a breakout room with Mr. Huffaker or Ms. Akeda, and they can answer any specific questions you might have about your child.
Correct. And that goes for even like learning coach things. If you want to give me your login information, I can log in and we can walk you through some of the features of the site if you just want to have kind of a tour. Because sometimes it's, it's better to have somebody else in the driver's seat and you can watch rather than, try to figure it out, all by yourself. That's fine too.
Hello, my name is Carmen, and I just had a question on Monday's meeting at 9 a.m. Are you guys going to have the evening meeting as well, or you guys don't know about that?
So we just got back from Stride and they just answered us not too long, a couple hours ago, that they cannot do an evening one right now. They're just swamped with the districts themselves. So what we'll be doing is just like this meeting, we'll be recording it and sharing it with you.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm going to stop recording from this point.